She's the most amazing woman I ever known, and as a friend and as a business owner, and she's always helped people. Since I opened.
She described Ty Mitchell the way you describe someone who changed your life without even trying. Always the first to place an order when you open something new. Always the one who made time to come in, sit down, eat, pay, and tell others about it. Not because she had to, because that was simply who she was. A woman who showed up for people. A woman who made you feel like your dream mattered. And then one Monday afternoon, the phone rang at Houston's River Oaks address, and everything that woman had built, everything she was still becoming, was gone. She had called once. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. By the time Monday arrived, the silence had stretched far enough that she made the only decision that made sense. She contacted the police. At 5:26 in the evening on Monday, May 4, 2025, Houston police officers arrived at 2113 Kingston Street in River Oaks, the most exclusive residential neighborhood in the city of Houston. What officers discovered inside that home would become one of the most devastating cases in recent Houston history. 4 people, 1 family, all found dead. But the question that investigators are still working to answer, and the question that has gripped everyone who has followed this case, is this. Did Ty Mitchell send a recording to her family just minutes before the tragedy? That question is at the center of everything, and we are going to walk through every documented detail surrounding it. You are watching Midnight Evidence, the channel where we go deeper than the headlines, where every detail is sourced, every timeline is verified, and every victim is given the dignity they deserve. If this is your first time here, welcome. Hit the like button right now and subscribe to Midnight Evidence so you never miss a case. And let us get into what actually happened. Ty Mitchell was 39 years old. She was born in Chicago, Illinois, to a Vietnamese immigrant family that carried with them the values that immigrant families so often carry quietly and completely. Hard work, community, the belief that showing up consistently is its own form of love. Her father was an engineer who relocated the family to the Houston metropolitan area after accepting a position with NASA. That move brought them to a city that would eventually become the full canvas of Ty's life. Her career, her marriage, her restaurants, and ultimately, the place where her story ended. Growing up, Ty spent her weekends helping at her grandmother's and mother's Vietnamese restaurant. She was not simply observing, she was absorbing. The rhythm of a kitchen, the relationship between food and memory, the way a well-run dining room could make a stranger feel immediately at home. All of that was being deposited into her long before she had a name for what she would one day do with it. She went on to study consumer science and merchandising at the University of Houston. Before she even graduated, she had already caught the attention of a target recruiter on campus and secured a place in the company's management training program. By her early 20s, she was overseeing more than 50 employees inside a high-revenue retail environment. That is not a minor detail. That is the early signature of someone who understood how to lead, how to earn trust from people, and how to run something at scale while still being present enough that the people under her felt seen. From Target, she moved into roles at Tooties and then Tiffany & Company, before transitioning into human resources and operations at Hilton Hotels. Each move reflected the same pattern. She would enter an environment, master it, grow within it, and leave it better than she found it. She later earned a master's degree in human relations and employee relations from Penn State University. Not as a stepping stone to something else, but because she genuinely wanted to understand the mechanics of how people work together, how institutions either lift people or diminish them, and what it takes to create environments where individuals can actually thrive. By any professional measure, Ty Mitchell had already built something impressive before she ever opened a single restaurant. But what she built with her husband Matthew is what most people came to know her for, and what made the events of May 2025 so incomprehensible to the city of Houston. Traveler's Table opened in 2019 at 520 Westheimer Road in Houston's Montrose neighborhood. The concept was not borrowed from a trend or assembled to appeal to a demographic. It came directly from the lives Thy and Matthew Mitchell had actually lived. The menu pulled from countries they had visited together: Australia, Japan, South Korea, Nigeria, Morocco, France, places they had moved through and eaten in and carried home with them in some form. As Thy told the Houston Chronicle in 2024, they did not always speak the language of the places they traveled to, but they always had food in common. That was the premise. That was the soul of the restaurant. In 2021, Traveler's Table was featured on Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins and Dives on the Food Network, a platform that placed the restaurant in front of a national audience. 2 years later, in 2023, the restaurant gained additional national recognitions when former head chef Stanton Bundy, who had run the kitchen for 5 years, won an episode of Beat Bobby Flay. These were not small moments. These were markers of a business that had earned its reputation through quality, consistency, and a point of view that was genuinely its own. In 2024, the Mitchells expanded with Traveler's Cart, a fast casual concept at 1401 Montrose Boulevard focused on global street food, bringing the same philosophy of food as travel into a more accessible format. That same year, they co-founded Foreign Fare, a travel-inspired clothing line featuring wrinkle-resistant, water-repellent designs built for people who moved through the world the way the Mitchells did, always in motion, always curious, always arriving somewhere new. The launch event was held inside Traveler's Table, with a signature cocktail called the Foreign Correspondent served to guests in the very space where the brand was born. I also served on the board of the Greater Houston chapter of the Texas Restaurant Association. And in 2025, her peers in the Houston restaurant community selected her as Greater Houston Restaurateur of the Year. That honor did not come from a panel of strangers. It came from the people who had watched her build, who had competed alongside her, who knew what it actually cost to do what she had done. Eric Sandler, city editor for Culture Map Houston, said it clearly. He said, "Thy Mitchell was never happier than when she was helping other people celebrate. That Traveler's Table had become a destination for birthdays and large gatherings. That she loved her staff and pushed them to grow. That providing opportunities for others was what drove her. She was also a mother. Her daughter Maya was 8 years old, her son Maxwell was 4, and at the time of her death, she was expecting a third child. That is the full picture of Thy Mitchell. Not just a restaurateur, not just a title or an award or a business. A daughter of immigrants who built something real, who showed up for her community the way her community later showed up to grieve her, completely and without reservation. Matthew Mitchell was 52 years old, and his biography reads like someone who refused to be defined by any single chapter. He earned his undergraduate degree from Emory University, then studied in France, Italy, and at Oxford University in England. He worked as a journalist and writer in London, Paris, and New York City. When he eventually returned to Texas, he attended Rice University, and then spent 14 years inside the pharmaceutical industry, working his way to the position of President and Chief Executive Officer of Texas Center for Drug Development, a clinical research organization. His father, Dr. Jerry Mitchell, was a professor at Baylor College of Medicine and had previously led that same company. Then Matthew walked away from all of it. Not out of failure, not out of scandal. He simply enrolled at the Art Institute of Houston, earned a culinary arts degree, and redirected his entire professional life toward food. The people who knew him professionally said it was unexpected, but those who knew him personally said it was completely consistent with who he was, a man who followed his own internal compass regardless of what the map said. When he and Thy opened Traveler's Table together in 2019, it was the meeting point of two very different life paths that somehow led to the same destination. She brought the warmth, the operational knowledge, the community relationships, the ability to make anyone in her orbit feel valued. He brought the international perspective, the intellectual depth, the culinary training, and a level of discipline that came from having led organizations at the highest level. Former employees who worked alongside both of them described the dynamic in consistent terms. Thy was the public face of the business. She was energetic, constantly engaged, always visible, always in motion. Matthew was different. He was reserved, private, harder to read. He maintained no social media presence whatsoever, not a single account across any platform. That fact was notable enough that Thai herself had commented on it publicly. She once wrote that when the two of them first met in 2010, she initially thought he was hiding something because no one avoided social media the way he did. She had framed it with humor, but the observation was real. Stanton Bundy, the former head chef who had worked alongside Matthew for 5 years and who spoke to TMZ following the tragedy, said he had considered Matthew a close friend. In all of those 5 years, he said, he had only ever witnessed a minor disagreement between Matthew and Thai. Nothing physical, nothing that raised concern. And yet he told reporters that in the days after the news broke, he found himself questioning everything he thought he knew. That statement, from someone who was genuinely close to Matthew Mitchell, carries a weight that is difficult to set aside. The picture that emerges of Matthew is not one of obvious warning signs. It is something more complicated than that. He was steady. He was capable. He showed up to Thai's large Vietnamese family, gathering early in their relationship, and ate everything offered to him without hesitation. That was the moment Thai once said publicly that she knew he was the one. They married by the sea in Puerto Vallarta. They celebrated their 10th anniversary in St. Kitts. 2 restaurants, a clothing line, 2 children, a third on the way, a community that had wrapped itself around everything they were building together. From the outside, looking at any photograph of them, reading any profile written about the business, attending any event at Traveler's Table, there was nothing that announced what was coming. No visible fracture, no public alarm, no moment that the people closest to them could later point to and say, that was when we should have known. And that is perhaps the most unsettling part of this entire case. Not that the warning signs were ignored, but that to the people who loved them, worked with them, and celebrated alongside them, there appeared to be no warning signs at all. On Monday, May 4, 2025, a friend attempted to reach Thai. One call went unanswered, then another. The silence continued long enough that a welfare check was requested. Houston police officers arrived at 2133 Kingston Street in River Oaks at 5:26 in the evening. Inside the home, they found 4 members of the Mitchell family deceased. The investigation that followed would center on one of the most painful and disorienting questions a case like this can raise. Not just what happened, but whether anyone knew it was about to. Because according to reporting, Thai Mitchells may have sent a recording to members of her family approximately 10 minutes before the tragedy. That recording, if it exists in the form being described, is not a minor detail. It could be the most significant piece of evidence in this entire case. It could contain information that changes how we understand the final hours inside that home on Kingston Street. We are going to cover exactly what has been reported about that recording, what investigators have disclosed, and what it may or may not reveal about the sequence of events that took place. That is coming up next. Before we continue, if this kind of in-depth, sourced, responsible coverage is what you want more of, you are already in the right place. Subscribe to Midnight Evidence right now and hit that like button. Every like tells us you want us to keep going deeper. Every subscriber becomes part of a community that believes victims deserve more than a headline. Stay with us, because what comes next in this case is where everything gets harder to explain. The last week of Thai Mitchell's life looked, from every visible angle, like the life of a woman still fully in motion, still building, still planning, still present in the way that people who love what they do tend to be present. Not just physically, but entirely. 10 days before the tragedy, on April 24, 2025, Thai posted a video on Instagram alongside Matthew. It was lighthearted. She captioned it with a joke about aging, writing that he believed they would grow old together, and that he would, but she was Asian, so she did not have the heart to correct him. It was the kind of post that gets shared because it is warm and self-aware and genuinely funny. A couple, more than a decade into a marriage, still finding room for humor with each other. Nothing in that caption, nothing in that video, suggested anything other than a relationship that still had lightness inside it. In the days that followed that post, Di and Matthew were actively working with colleagues in Houston's restaurant community on a new menu connected to the FIFA World Cup 2026. Houston had been selected as one of the host cities for that tournament, and the Mitchells were already in planning mode. Forward-looking, engaged with what was coming next. That is the detail that makes what followed so disorienting to the people who were working alongside them. They were not winding down. They were preparing for something bigger. On Saturday, May 2nd, 2025, Di hosted a Texas Restaurant Association board meeting at her restaurant. Craig Howard, president of the Houston chapter of the Texas Restaurant Association, was in attendance. He described the gathering that followed the meeting as a social event that drew approximately 50 restaurateurs. He said the food was great, the staff was exceptional, and the energy in the room was exactly what you would expect from a community gathering, hosted by someone who understood hospitality at its core. That evening was the last time many of those colleagues would see Di Mitchell in a professional setting. The following day, Sunday, May 3rd, 2025, Di posted what would turn out to be the final video she ever shared on Instagram. It was a mother-daughter outing. She and her 8-year-old daughter, Maya, had spent the afternoon shopping for dresses in preparation for Ty's sister Lamai's upcoming wedding in Boston. The video opened with what appeared to be Lamai's engagement ring on screen. Then it showed Di and Maya walking out of their house together. Then Maya inside a dress shop, standing among mirrors, trying on a formal gown. Di captioned it simply. Maya picked her dress and made sure she was set too. That post went up on May 3rd. It was the last thing Di Mitchell ever shared with the world publicly. That same Sunday evening, Di was on the phone with friends. Multiple people who spoke with her that night confirmed she sounded completely fine. She was present, she was making plans. There was no distress in her voice, no indication that anything in her life was off, no moment where something felt wrong enough to flag. The conversations were normal. The Di on the phone that Sunday night was the same Di they had always known. And then the calls stopped. The family's babysitter began attempting to reach the Mitchell household Sunday night. By Monday, she had received no response, no returned calls, no replies to messages, nothing from anyone inside that home. She later said that the silence did not feel normal, that it was not the kind of silence that happens when a family is simply busy or out of reach for a few hours. It was the kind of silence that sits differently. She contacted Ty's sister Lamai. Together, they made the decision to call Houston police and request a welfare check at the family's residence on Kingston Street. That call was made on Monday, May 4th, 2025. At 5:26 in the evening, officers from the Houston Police Department arrived at 2113 Kingston Street in River Oaks. What they found inside that home is now part of the official record, confirmed by law enforcement and the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences. When Houston police officers entered the residence, they located 4 individuals, all members of the same family, all with gunshot wounds. The Houston Police Department officially named Matthew Mitchell, age 52, as the suspect. Their formal statement indicated that evidence at the scenes pointed to a murder-suicide in which the male subject shot the 3 other victims before shooting himself. The Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences subsequently conducted its examination and confirmed the cause of death for all 4 individuals. All 4 died from gunshot wounds to the head. Matthew Mitchell's death was ruled a suicide. The deaths of Di Mitchell, age 39, Maya Mitchell, age 8, and Maxwell Mitchell, age 4, were each ruled homicides. The official time of death recorded by the medical examiner was 6:11 in the evening on Monday, May 4th, 2025. The 2 children, Maya and Maxwell, were found in their beds. There are no words adequate to that sentence. A mother, a daughter, a son, a family that the city of Houston had watched build something extraordinary together. Gone inside the walls of a home that, from the outside, had shown no visible sign of what was happening within it. Investigators went back through every available record. There were no prior police calls to 2113 Kingston Street in the preceding 6 months. Not one. There were no restraining orders filed in Harris County courts. No legal filings of any kind. No documented domestic incidents. Nothing in any official system that pointed toward what was coming. The investigation did not find a paper trail of escalating conflict because, at least in the official record, no such trail existed. No suicide note has been publicly confirmed. No motive has been officially released by the Houston Police Department. As of the most recent available update, authorities have not indicated when or whether they intend to address either of those points publicly. What investigators were working with was the physical evidence recovered at the scene, the forensic conclusions from the medical examiner, and the full scope of digital and communications data that standard homicide investigation protocol requires: phone records, device activity, message history, every piece of digital information that can help establish a timeline of what happened, who communicated with whom, and in what order events unfolded. This is the point where the documented record intersects with what has been reported by sources close to the case, but has not been officially confirmed by law enforcement. Multiple reports have alleged that in the period leading up to May 4th, Matthew Mitchell had been experiencing paranoia. The available reporting does not establish what form that paranoia took, what may have triggered it, or who specifically witnessed it, and in what context. Authorities have not addressed it. The Mitchell family has not addressed it. It exists in the record as an allegation that has been reported by multiple outlets but has not been confirmed through any official channel. It is included here because it has been widely reported, not because its cause or its connection to the events of May 4th has been established. Those connections have not been drawn by investigators publicly, and responsible coverage requires that distinction to be made clearly. The financial context surrounding the Mitchell businesses has also been noted by those inside Houston's restaurant community. Traveler's Cart had launched following a funding round of approximately $2.35 million. The economic environment facing Houston restaurants throughout 2025 was well documented across the industry, with rising costs for labor, insurance, and commercial rent placing significant pressure on operators at every level. But industry insiders who addressed this topic were consistent on one specific point. There is no confirmed connection between those financial pressures and what occurred on May 4th. It is context, it is not cause, and that distinction matters enormously when covering a case where the official motive has not been released. If you have been following this case, and you have information that may be relevant to the Houston Police Department's ongoing investigation, the HPD Homicide Division can be reached directly at 713-308-3600. Before we get to the question that this entire case turns on, take a moment right now and subscribe to Midnight Evidence if you have not already. Hit that like button. This kind of coverage takes time, care, and sourcing, and every person who subscribes and engages makes it possible to keep going deeper on cases that deserve more than surface level attention. You are already here. Stay with us. Now, here is where this case becomes something that investigators, the Mitchell family, and everyone who followed this story from the beginning cannot stop returning to. Thy Mitchell was on the phone with friends on Sunday night, May 3rd. By every account from the people who spoke with her, she sounded completely normal, present, engaged, making plans. The medical examiner placed the official time of death at 6:11 in the evening on Monday, May 4th, 2025. That creates a window of approximately 18 hours between the last confirmed contact anyone had with Thy Mitchell and the moment her death was officially recorded. 18 hours. Inside that window, the question that sits at the center of this investigation is whether Thy reached out. In any murder-suicide investigation, the HPD Homicide Division and the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences work to construct a complete timeline using every available source of digital information: phone records, text message logs, voice notes, application data, device activity from every phone, tablet, and connected device found at the scene or connected to the individuals involved. This is not unusual. This is standard investigative procedure. It is how timelines get built, how sequences of events get confirmed, and how investigators determine whether anyone inside a home in crisis attempted to communicate with the outside world before it was too late. The specific question that has emerged in reporting on this case is whether Thy Mitchell sent a recording, in some form, to a member of her family in the period leading up to her death. The figure that has appeared in coverage of this case is 10 minutes, a recording allegedly sent approximately 10 minutes before the tragedy. Houston police have not confirmed this. They have not denied it. The Mitchell family has not addressed it publicly. And as of the date of this video, that question has not been answered through any official statement from any party involved in the investigation. What that means is that we are working at the edge of what the documented record currently supports. The reporting exists. It has appeared across multiple outlets. The specific claim that a recording was sent in the minutes before the events of May 4th is part of the public conversation surrounding this case. But it has not been verified through official confirmation, and that is a line that responsible coverage does not cross without acknowledgement. What we can say with confidence is this: if such a recording exists, it would represent something far beyond a piece of investigative evidence. It would be, in the most precise sense of the phrase, a final communication. A moment where Thy Mitchell, a 39-year-old woman who had spent her entire adult life building things for other people, may have reached out in the way that people reach out when they are afraid, when something feels wrong, when the silence around them has become something they cannot explain but cannot ignore. It would be a record of her voice in the hours no one else could see into. And it would matter not only to the investigation, it would matter to the people who loved her. To Lamai, her sister, who was weeks away from her own wedding in Boston and who was instead making calls to Houston police on a Monday afternoon. To the friends who had spoken to her the night before and heard nothing in her voice that told them to worry. To the staff at Traveler's Table and Traveler's Cart who came to work on Tuesday morning not knowing yet what Monday had taken from them. To the catering entrepreneur who opened her own business in part because Thy had always been the first one through the door to support her. To Maya's teacher. To Maxwell's world, which was 4 years old and entirely contained within the walls of that home on Kingston Street. The investigation is ongoing. The Houston Police Department's Homicide Division has not closed this case to public information. No final motive has been released. No definitive account of the timeline inside that home on May 4th has been made public. The Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences has confirmed its findings. The official designations of homicide and suicide are part of the permanent record. But the full story of what happened between Sunday night and 6:11 on Monday evening remains, at least publicly, incomplete. Thy Mitchell was 39 years old. She was the daughter of a Vietnamese immigrant family that built its life through work and community. She was a mother of 2 children with a third on the way. She was the co-owner of 2 restaurants, a clothing line, and a seat on the board of the Greater Houston chapter of the Texas Restaurant Association. She was named Greater Houston Restaurateur of the Year in 2025 by the people who had watched her build from nothing into something that fed, employed, and connected hundreds of people in one of the most vibrant food cities in the country. She was, by every account from every person who worked alongside her, or sat at one of her tables, someone who made you feel like your presence mattered. She deserves a complete answer. Her children deserve a complete record. The community that is still grieving her deserves to understand what happened inside that house. And this channel will continue covering this case as new information becomes available through verified reporting and official sources. If this coverage has meant something to you, if you believe that victims like Thy Mitchell, Maya Mitchell, and Maxwell Mitchell deserve more than a 48-hour news cycle, then subscribe to Midnight Evidence right now. Leave a comment below telling us what you want us to cover next. Hit the like button so this video reaches more people who are asking the same questions you are. We are not going anywhere, and neither is this story. Stay with us.